In today's video, Dog Squad, we are going to be back recapping March Madness. The round of 32 has ended. We are now getting ready for the Sweet 16, and we're going to be recapping those round of 32 games. Also be looking ahead a little bit of a preview of the Sweet 16 games. We'll have more videos coming out for the Sweet 16 later this week, and we'll kind of get stuff going with that, especially as a Hawks fan, very excited, and we'll talk about our matchup with Arizona. Of course, all the other games. As we hit this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so you don't miss one of my videos. We're on the road to 2K subs, so it's very exciting to see if we can get to that soon. We're at 1.14K right now. Let's try to get some more soon. Make sure you subscribe, make sure to like, and make sure to share this so other people can be part of the Dog Squad subscribing. Make sure also to comment. Would like to get some more comments here on these videos. Obviously, keep watching those shorts. Keep doing everything. Also, subscribe to TreyDOGaming. We will be back up tomorrow. Actually, today. This video is premiered today. Sorry if this is wild. I'll go ahead and turn this down a little bit. But Monday, here on Monday, you will have a gaming video. It's been a little bit because I've been watching a lot of basketball. I've been, it's been, the conference tournaments, regular March Madness, all that preparation stuff. So that's why we're getting more into it. I know if I've had videos in the past during that time, I know, but this time I didn't because I was a lot more into it. I've always been into it a lot. But I just planned. I didn't really want to make videos during that time this time because I wanted to focus more on basketball. But now as we get this break between basketball, I'm gonna get back in those gaming videos. And of course, we're gonna get back into it. But now without further ado, let's get right into this video, Dog Squad. Okay, Dog Squad, so here we are. The second round has ended. We're going to go through these games, and then we're going to preview the Sweet 16 just a little bit. So here we go. We start off with Duke and TCU. This was a much better game from the Duke Blue Devils. Look, TCU is competing. Duke had some offensive trouble, and then they started picking it up, and then eventually both sides came together and was able to stop TCU and be able to hold them from pulling off an upset. The Duke Blue Devils move on. The Boozer Twins, had a better second half. Phenomenal from how they play, what their form style is. Honestly, I think part of me still does. Probably most of me honestly still does think Darius Acup is better. Not just as a Hawks fan, I think he's a better college player. AJ, he might be better. I don't know. It's kind of debate to see who will win that Naismith Trophy. Hopefully it's Acup. But Duke is moving on to the Sweet 16. A better performance, much better performance against TCU than they did against Siena, and they move on. St. John's and Kansas. St. John's had a lot of this. Their defense, a lot of this the whole game. Kansas was able to come back when their offense started to get going, and then eventually the tie game. And then Darling, that's the last name, Darling, for his first 2 points. Probably didn't have his best game. But he had so many shots that I saw that were just bad shots, but he was able to get that game-winning layup, get St. John's to the first Sweet 16 since 1999. Rick Pitino gets it. St. John's defense is terrific. They are going to be great against Duke, but Duke defense also is really good. That's going to be a very good matchup to see, with Okafor against Boozer. That is one game for us to see. Pitino versus Shire, St. John's versus Duke in the Sweet 16. We'll go over that later, but St. John's moves on, and Kansas is now 4 years in a row without reaching the Sweet 16. Is it time to be concerned about Bill Self in his tournament? Winning all those winning 2 national championships. Last time they made the Sweet 16 was when they won the national championship. Hadn't done that since. Michigan State and Louisville, great game, but Michigan State was way too much. Their offense got going, eventually started trying to pull away. Louisville tried coming back. It just wasn't enough. Michigan State and Tom Izzo, terrific. They get there with the win. Michigan State's got a lot of shooters that can make shots. They're going to be terrific when they come down to and have a chance at the Final Four, especially Fears, man. He's a player. He's an awesome guy. He's a top player in the nation. He's been phenomenal. He proves once again in this tournament game. Michigan State moves on over Louisville. UConn and UCLA. UCLA was hanging in there with UConn, but it just wasn't enough. Alex Caravan is phenomenal. With his most points he's had, I believe I don't know if it was this year in his career, but he was phenomenal in this game against UCLA, able to help the Huskies pull away. The Huskies have had some broken some records in their 2 tournament games they've had. So we've had some players doing that for UConn, and Terrence doing that against Furman, and then Caravan doing that against UCLA. They're a phenomenal team, and when they go up against Michigan State, that's going to be a great game to see them play. But they get the win there. And then, so right now, you can take a look at my bracket. I've got 460 points. I got all four of these right, and no, they were not just, I know they were kind of, you could say maybe chalk, but hey, I didn't fall for an upset. St. John's was still a lower seed, so it's not like I'm going around just picking random stuff. So, I didn't just pick random stuff. I thought they'd win, and they did. But, those are my round of 32 picks that were all correct. We move on here to one that wasn't as good, but it's kind of, just kind of surprising, I think, to a lot of people. Florida, the top seed in the South, the number 1 seed, the Gators, go down in the round of 32 to 9-seeded Iowa. Bennett Sturts didn't have his game, but this Iowa offense was able to compete really well with this Big Florida defense. I mean, Iowa is on something with their offense right now in this tournament. I tell you, Ben McCollum knows how to win tournament games. They almost had a chance at Drake last year, wasn't enough, but this time with 9-seeded Iowa going to beat number 1 seeded Florida is phenomenal. Look, Florida's guard play, I honestly, it wasn't bad, but I just don't think it was enough to take them a deep run to the tournament. They have really good bigs, but guard play comes down to it in March. And, Iowa, they definitely had it. They get the win over Florida. And I didn't get that right. I had Florida to the Elite 8, but at least I didn't have them in the Final Four. Vanderbilt, Nebraska. We talked about this yesterday on my, talked about some of these games on my short yesterday. Nebraska coming with I think honestly since that Big Ten tournament, I think they've been phenomenal. They blew out Troy, and I thought Vanderbilt, I thought they were the better team. I thought their offense would, start rolling, probably more throughout the game. Then it kind of took a little to get into it, just like they did with McNeese. They had trouble stopping Nebraska. Nebraska's got great shooters that can, make plays, and that was phenomenal. Also getting the glass was hard to get the rebounds. Vanderbilt wasn't the best in that, and they weren't this best in the season. So honestly, beating Nebraska, or losing to Nebraska, I should say, it was tough for Vandy. And Nebraska, congratulations to them making the Sweet 16. And Tyler Tanner, he was awesome this game. He was phenomenal. He did a lot of this stuff for the Commodores. Wasn't enough. Nebraska getting the win. Vanderbilt, Tyler Tanner almost making that half-court shot. I mean, I don't know how that didn't go in, but they're able to get the end the season, but or not able to, but they do end the season, and what a year for Vanderbilt. You got to respect them as a Hogs fan. They played us tough that SEC title game. They had a phenomenal year, one of their best years in a while. But they'll be probably back better than ever next year. And Nebraska's going to keep on rolling. They got to play Iowa as a rivalry in that. That's very good basketball there. Two schools we don't usually see, I think, go this far. At least Nebraska. Iowa, I haven't seen this go this far in a while. So, Iowa and Nebraska, that'll be something. We'll go over that in a minute, though. VCU, Illinois, like I said, VCU looked like some of the other games. VCU, you thought maybe try to pull in there, but it wasn't enough. Illinois, too talented of a team. You got the Avicic brothers. They're too tall. They got size. They've got a phenomenal squad. The Fighting Illini to move on to the Sweet 16, and getting a dominant victory of VCU and shutting down their chance at a Cinderella run. Houston, they had to start to finish. Now, maybe not quite the start, because A&M was rolling in there with them. It looked like that offense was going to cause this Houston defense to have some trouble, that dominant defense, but with buckyball and all that, with for A&M, it wasn't. Nope, they went on like a huge run, and Houston was able to just go from there. I mean, they're very good. Both sides are phenomenal. Flemings and Sharp, and Uzan, they're just very fast-paced guys. They can make plays. Houston moves on, and Kelvin Sampson might have the guys to win the national championship this year. I got them in the chip, So we'll see. But right now, as you can take a look, Iowa and Nebraska, I didn't pick. I had Vanderbilt and Florida, so the opposite. We would just swap those. We would have had a perfect South region. But you know, we would have had a 1-5, 3-2. We did get the 3-2 right, and honestly, that's because I thought we would. You know, we had VCU playing Illinois. We did not have A&M. We had St. Mary's playing in Houston, but Houston still won. So far, that one was good. Look, I understand some of these were not as good, crazy upsets, but sometimes you got to take the battle. You got to throw some upsets in there. You can't be too shabby. You can't be too crazy. You can do this stuff. I think that's only the better choice. I think you get better brackets and better results out of that. Because, you know, we only had a couple really crazy, but you also have some balances to it. We've only had a couple really crazy years before. And those have definitely fallen in some years before. So, all right, moving on. You take a look at Arizona and Utah State here. Arizona getting, I think they had some offensive issues in this one, but they were able to pull out more later in the game. Utah State, a great battle for them. It shows that, Arizona, people can hang on with Arizona. I really hope the Hawks can do that, but Arizona's a very tough team, well balanced. I think definitely they can probably have a chance to national championship, but we'll see if they can get to the Elite Eight and get over that hump, that 10-year hump. All right, and then Arkansas, a big offensive showdown against High Point. Rob Martin and Darius Acuff were going at it, guard to guard, and they were very, very talented in this game. Darius Acuff, my guy, getting the clutch three-pointer to seal the game against High Point. High Point, they're a very tough team. No wonder they won the Big South. No wonder they beat Wisconsin. I had that right. And Arkansas, they give their best shot against Arkansas. I kind of figured, I was looking, I was like, I think we're going to be more disciplined than Wisconsin. I think we're going to get more than Wisconsin, more points. We're going to do some more stuff. And we did. I knew it'd be close, but I knew we'd pull out around a score just like this. And Arkansas gets the Sweet 16. But that defense was struggling. I think they had some guard three-point numbers, but they're also letting them inside. So it was a little bit more, hey, you guard the three-pointer. You also let them score three-pointers. But then you also let them inside. So that's going to be tough for you in Arizona. You can't do that. But if your offense gets rolling, you might have a shot, and you can make some defensive adjustments. You'll be fine. But Arizona's going to do one tough game, but we'll preview that in just a moment. Did not have Texas beating Gonzaga. I had BYU beating Gonzaga. I had BYU beating Texas. So, but BYU, not BYU, sorry. I'm making sure. I thought I heard noise, I guess. I don't know if I heard so. I know someone's coming in my room in just a second. But Texas does get the win over Gonzaga. And Sean Miller's done a great job with this Texas team. Supporting the SEC well. As much as we don't probably as much like Texas as Hogs fan. You guys support the SEC and, beating the Zags. And Gonzaga, you had all those Sweet 16 runs. But sometimes it just seems like you underperform a little bit more than you should. So Texas is probably is this year's Cinderella. Even though they're an SEC team, they are basically this year. We don't really have a big Cinderella run anymore. But Texas gets the win over the Zags, 74-68, and big win. They're on a roll. They're beating, they've now beaten NC State, Gonzaga, and BYU to head to the Elite Eight. Who they play? Well, Miami or Purdue. This was a battle as well. With that Purdue offense, we got to them. I was able to contain Miami from making big plays. And Braden Smith over another great game to lead the Boilermakers to a win over Miami and get the victory to head to the Elite Eight with the Texas Longhorns. And maybe Texas can make a game. Maybe they can make another run. Maybe they can make it to the Elite Eight. And who knows? Maybe they can be 11 seed in the Final Four. We'll see what goes on. But Purdue gets the win over Miami. So you take a look, and you had one wrong. It was BYU over Gonzaga. So I had Arizona, Arkansas, and Purdue. And then you had, BYU. I thought that maybe have a chance. I feel like, honestly, some of these upsets would have probably possibly happened that I picked. Maybe not all of them, but some of them, like the Akron one, and, maybe some of these other ones, and Miami, Ohio, and, BYU would maybe had I feel like some of these would have had more of a shot. USF, I feel like some of these would more have a shot, whatever. I feel like if we were in a little bit, if we were getting a little more upsets, like some Hofstra, all that. I feel like if we were getting more upsets, I feel like we could have, had some stuff, but we'll see also how these, last year we had a lot of 1-2s and all that, so we'll see if we can get some, like, you know, what I'm asking for here and all that. So, you know, we'll definitely see. But this is the most balanced way. I would probably do that anyways, even if it's a tournament, and we probably would get a good amount of results anyways with those picks anyways. So, so moving on, you do have Michigan and St. Louis. Just like many times, once again, another game where it seemed like you had a shot. The St. Louis couldn't pull it out. Michigan with Lindenberg and Mara were too much for that St. Louis with Avila and the St. Louis offense. And St. Louis overall team wasn't enough. Michigan got 95 points on the board, was able to contain St. Louis, was able to contain them from getting momentum and making threes and all the shots, getting the 95-72 big, impressive win over St. Louis, and was a ranked team for most of the year. Michigan moves on. Right now, my national champion still stands. I didn't get Akron over Hofstra. I got both these wrong. You know, you don't see as much. I guess you don't see these anymore. The 12 and 13 as much anymore. But you still did get High Point. And you do see right here Texas Tech and Alabama. And the tie came to play today. I mean, you know, their offense we knew was really good. You know, with Philon and, you know, when Aiden Holiday was there, they got offensive talent. But to contain Texas Tech with Christian Anderson and all that, I mean, to contain them, we've had a roller coaster season. They've had these games where they just flat out whoop someone and they get whooped. And that was one of them. And, you know, they go over there with playing with Akron and beat them by 20 and then go over there and get whooped by Alabama. Honestly, I probably could have thought that maybe Texas Tech would have won this game or something. I don't know. But I had Bama at first. Probably should have kept it now that I'm knowing it. But I wanted to take the upset because it is still March Madness overall. And but it didn't happen. So that's what we ought to see out of that. Yeah. But, you know, Bama came to play. Their defense was phenomenal. And Alabama, if their defense can get situated, they can maybe win every game. I mean, they're talented if they had an elite defense. They'd be a #1 seed. Probably same with Arkansas. If they had probably a very good defense, they probably can be a #1 seed too. But that's kind of been the case this year. That's why they're only a 4 seed. Which is still good because both teams, if they can play great defense, they can make a run, and we'll see if they can stop Michigan in this one. Moving on, UVA and Virginia, or not Virginia, sorry, Tennessee. You know, Virginia, man, they have some trouble making it to the Sweet 16, and I don't know why it took them so long to win a day tournament game with all those appearances from the championships, you know, against Wright State, but they couldn't seem to find as many good shots. And, you know, Tennessee with, you know, Gillespie, I think, was the best one today. He's been phenomenal this tournament. Same with Nate Ament. And I think this Tennessee team has just, you know, been, I think, been just great, I think, March so far. You know, especially this tournament, you know, getting a dominant win over Miami, Ohio, getting a win over a great Virginia team. Rick Barnes has done great with the Vols, and they move on to the Sweet 16, they will play a Joshua Jefferson-less Iowa State team who was able to still dominate Kentucky. Kentucky looked like they were at 29 at one point. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, how bad is Iowa State without Joshua Jefferson? Well, no. In terms of how the tides have turned, how the tables have turned, Iowa State gets a dominant victory over Kentucky. And you know, you look at Kentucky, you know, this wasn't their best year. I think, honestly, Michigan, Kentucky fans don't need to grab that hook because, hey, you got you the Sweet 16 for the first time in a few years. And then Cal came to Arkansas, got us the Sweet 16, and now we're back there. So, honestly, Kentucky, you just got to be very, you know, if Pope probably messed up again, doesn't have a great year, then I can get you can play. But Kentucky fans, you got to stop complaining after every little mistake you get. I'm sorry your expectations are lower now, but that's just what the case is. But Kentucky loses, Iowa State's in the Elite or Sweet 16. So we have, if you didn't take a look at my chart, you should go check out on YouTube. You got 6 Big Ten teams. You take a look, you've got Michigan State, you got Iowa, you got Nebraska, you got Illinois, you've got Purdue, and you've got Michigan. The SEC teams that are coming in second, you've got trying to find Alabama, you've got Tennessee, you've got Texas, and you've got Arkansas. So, honestly, all 4 of the SEC teams could be gone. In fact, they are the lower seed in these matchups. So, you know, they can definitely all be gone. You have 3 Big 12 teams. You have Arizona, you have Houston, and you have Iowa State. And then you also have, for the Big East, you have St. John's and UConn. and you can see a Big East showdown, or you can see an Izzo versus Schreier showdown. You can see whatever, and then you have one ACC team, and that is top-seeded Duke. But you take a look, just a short preview of each team, Duke and St. John's. Great game going to be Edgefor versus Boozer. You have great talented offense versus a very talented defense. But you also have a very talented defense of Duke. You have Patino versus Schreier, a young versus older coach. That'll be a good game. Michigan State, another kind of situation between older and younger, maybe in terms of Hurley and Izzo. You have Caravan, you have Fears. You have got a great matchup between Michigan State and UConn, 3 and 2. Iowa, Nebraska, 2 teams who aren't used to going to 316 now get to do it. A high-flying offense of both teams. 3-point shooters. Watch out for those flying 3-pointers. It's going to be Iowa and Nebraska big time in this rivalry showdown. Illinois, Houston, both dominant teams with really dominant defense, a really dominant offense, and of course some other sides are great as well. Both very well-coached teams. The big men for Illinois is going to be huge with the tall guys with the Visic and all that. Great shooters. Houston with Fleming's a top ESPN top 30 guy, or he's playing top 100 say, but he is a top 30 guy, big time for Fleming's, and Sharp, Huzan, all those guys for Houston that can make plays, and that's gonna be a great game to watch them play against Illinois. Arkansas and Arizona. Jerry Seytough, what can he do against a strong Arizona defense? They played well today, but can Arkansas do what Utah State did and limit a little bit more of Arizona, and not do what High Point do the other night, even though they are a very efficient offense in the nation. Texas and Purdue, can Texas keep the center line going, or will Purdue ruin that and their flying offense with Braden Smith, and will they make plays on the defense to stop Draymond Mark and that Longhorn team? Michigan and Alabama. If Alabama, can they contain Michigan? Can they contain Lindenberg? And can they stop Mara down low? Can they have another great defensive game? Because we know sure that offense can, but you're going against the #1 defense in the league. What will Alabama do to get through that? And Tennessee and Iowa State, can Tennessee have another great defensive night? Or will they be able to stop another Joshua Jefferson-less Iowa State? Or Iowa State run right through them? Who knows what will happen in this one until Thursday and Friday. Very excited for the Sweet 16, and my picks are looking well. If you take a look, I got 2 right here. I picked Akron, and I picked UVA, so there's been some mix-ups. We are getting a little more upsets, so this March Madness might be starting to come more alive a little bit now, because you can take a look at the seeding. You've got a 1-5 and a 3-2, 9-4, 3-2, 1-4, 11-2, and a 1-4, 6-2. So you are starting to get some upsets, some basics, all that. So I think it's starting to kind of still a little more March Madness. I think it's just not as many. I think what we're seeing is not maybe as many upsets as before, but there are still great games, and there are still now more upsets in the second round than before in the first round. So still great, still awesome. But thank you so much for watching Dog Squad, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.